Hey there, this is Rob Casey with GoSendMe Global, and we're providing today an overview of the system that we've generated for our missionaries called A.P.A.C.S. And this stands for Accountability, Prayer, Advancement, CareCrisis, and Support. And we're going to do an overview today to help you be able to really dive into these important teams that are necessary for you to be successful in the ministry God's called you to, whether that's serving in the United States or around the world, and whether that's serving in a capacity as a full-time missionary or as a staff person here in GoSendMe Global. So we're going to walk you through this, and you got to understand first and foremost how this came about. After spending time with hundreds and hundreds of missionaries, sitting at their feet, really gleaning and learning from them as to what really works and what doesn't, what they wish their organization would do for them, and maybe what they wish organizations would stop doing to them, we have learned so much, and we want to pass that on to you. One of our missionaries actually said, it's almost like GoSendMe Global was formatted based on everything missionaries said not to do. And that's a good value. It's a core value of who we are, because we really are about serving those who are called to serve Him. And if we're not listening to those we're serving, then how are we going to get that done? So while we have continued to develop what A.P.A.C.S looks like over time, the core values of it really come from the missionaries. And so we've realized that unfortunately many organizations, even churches that send missionaries out, try to in some way, shape, or form become the all-encompassing, everything included, all you'll ever need package for those that they're serving, and they neglect the interpersonal relationships that people have had for up to, who knows what, 30 years in some cases. We just don't see the value in that. We've recognized that missionaries have said to us that those relationships are important, and they feel disconnected on the field when they go to the field, and they can't somehow bring those folks with them in a sense of continuing ministry and communication. And the folks back home feel disconnected from the ministry, that getting a newsletter once a month or even once a quarter or once a year, hope not, is not enough, and that they want to be involved and engaged and feel like they're a part of what's happening. These people want to go with you in the mission, even though they can't go with you to the field. And so we want to provide the avenues for that, while also doing what's necessary for you to really be healthy as a family on the mission field, from whether you're the mom, the dad, or the single person, or even the kids that are involved in the mission. So without any further ado, let's dive into what this looks like. So we're going to begin, and we're going to talk here about the first letter, of course, which is A for accountability. Now, we've got some notes here on this, and you can read that while I'm going through this, but the overview is this. There are some people in your life right now who you have been having a relationship with that they just know how to ask you the right questions. They know how to say, "Oh, wait a minute, but how's that really affecting your walk with the Lord? Whoa, is that really the right choice you ought to be making?" And sometimes these are folks that you are just able to say, "You know what? This is the manner of my sin that I'm involved in, that I need to get confessed and off my chest, and I'm bringing it to you." You have some people in your life that you know you can do that with. As one dear brother in the Lord asked me, who was holding me accountable at one point in my life, "How is your worship life?" What a great question. So these are not necessarily a relationship with someone that's just a pastor over you, or an elder, someone who's an authority over you. This could be peer-to-peer relationships, but these are deep, meaningful relationships that hopefully you have developed over time already, but maybe haven't made official. And as you're preparing to go serve in the field, we think that it would be important for you to have 2 or 3 of these people in your lives, because people have different perspectives on things, and different personalities bring so much to the table when we're having these conversations. And sometimes they need to meet all of you together, and sometimes just one-on-one. But really engaging with them and saying, "I just need the encouragement of regularly meeting with you, and I want to continue holding you accountable in the same way that you're holding me accountable. But I need to make sure that we don't lose that. In fact, that almost grows deeper and stronger in the process of me preparing to go to the field, and in the process of serving in the place to which I'm going." So you can imagine all the areas this will encompass. because probably it's already involved in your life in these areas right now, but add to it the fact that we're going to be living in a foreign culture, or that we're going to be learning languages, or trying to adapt to all the different changes that our kids are going through while they're going through these things, or what our marriage may face, or the pressures in this different culture on me as a single person. So all kinds of things to consider there that a mission organization can't quite step in to your life and start addressing in the same level of vulnerability and transparency that someone else can that has already been doing this for such a long time. Now, we have to say this because some people don't have that kind of a relationship with anyone, and this is a time and a place to really start thinking about where in your life that should develop and who in your life that should go deeper with in that sense. Okay, so that's accountability. Again, 2 or 3 people in your life. Now, as a married couple, we highly, strongly recommend that this be 2 or 3 people per person, and that you don't want to do more than that because, again, as the old adage says, too many cooks can spoil the pot. We don't want to see too many people in our lives that are causing us to get confused or get differing advice, or even feeling compelled to confess certain things multiple times into too many people. It just gets to be too much, more than a person can handle on that level. And so these need to be people whose advice you trust, and maybe it is someone you look up to. Maybe it is someone that is in an authority position in your life, someone that you report to in that sense, and that's fine. That can continue in that way. We just need to make sure that we're very clear about the role that we're asking people to fill in this way, and that whether or not it's going to be mutual with 1 or 2 or all 3, or maybe it's only one-sided with one of those particular people because of the role they have in your life. So this is healthy, and missionaries have said that while I'm accountable to my mission organization, the sending organization, there is accountability there. And we talk about the work, and we talk about the workload, and we talk about my calling and best practices, etc. I know that I can bring to them the things that are really, really difficult and challenging based on what I'm facing on the field, but to try to have a relationship with them in that sense of needing a safe space to talk about everything, including my organization, including what I'm facing with my supporters and personally and as a family. There's some intimidation there, isn't there? Think about it. It's very natural. It'd be very natural to feel a bit of intimidation to bring everything you're facing on the mission field to all of your supporters in some open newsletter, to your whole church, to all of your family, and to all of your organization as you're facing those things, for fear that somehow someone may think less of you because you're experiencing a hardship or a challenge. And while we at GoSendMe Global aren't like that, and we are a family, and we want people to feel like they can share with us the difficulties they're facing, and we want to walk through those with you, having those particular relationships that can walk through those things with you in your life and be able to really counsel and help is really necessary. So helpful. The other side to that you need to consider is that there may be a point in time, as we've experienced as a mission organization alongside certain missionaries, where really the accountability team of that missionary needed to reach out to us and say, this missionary is really struggling in a way that we need to talk about. This is getting serious, and we need to come together and surround this person, because we don't shoot our wounded, do we? No, not in the body of Christ. No, we come around them and we want to aid them and walk through what they're going through. So I hope that's a help in the sense of what the accountability role is like and why it's vital to develop that in the health of your role as a missionary. Let's talk about the prayer team. One of the best pieces of advice I was ever given was to find 100 people that will pray for you every day. And we've tried to maintain that number and make sure that people are really staying aware and keeping us in mind in prayer on a daily basis. And we're so grateful for our prayer team, knowing that prayer is the work, and as we've talked about in other videos, the role of prayer in the life of a missionary, it's also the role of prayer on behalf of the missionary. So these are folks that you will gather together and that you will broadcast those general prayer requests to, and those major issues you're facing, from, of course, funding things to the serious spiritual warfare that you're facing on the field. Now, because of the various types of things missionaries face on the field, one of the things missionaries express to us is the difficulty they found in communicating prayer requests, because we tend to bring down the level of what we're asking for prayer for to the lowest common denominator, meaning to the effect that the most number of people could accept it, understand it, and would actually engage in prayer on that issue for you. Which means when we get real particular about a family member, one of our kids, what they're going through emotionally, or spiritual warfare and dealing with demonic activity in an area, there are people who may not be able to grasp that, may not understand that, may not be able to relate to that, or may be too close to you in your relationships to really talk about those things with. So we highly recommend that these are folks that you segregate into lists based on the role and relationship that you have with them. So those general out there open prayer requests that are more broad in scope, and pray for this village that we want to get the gospel to, those kinds of things are great. But then you want to have a list of those folks that perhaps are the family members, or maybe those intimate friendships that know the names of your kids and care about what they're going through in particular, where you can send those out. Now, does this take more work? On the front end, yes. But once those lists are done, it actually frees missionaries to be able to communicate more directly and succinctly, to not try to have to reword and rewrite things so much so that everybody can grasp what they're sending out, and therefore not compromise on the things that really matter in their ministry and their scope, because they're able to express those things directly to those that they know can handle it and truly care and will pray about those things. The mentality here truly is, as William Carey said before he went to India, I will go into the pit or I will go into the well, depending upon how you see the quote, but you have to hold the rope. And the response was in agreement that there'd be no point in which William Carey would be serving that that body of believers wouldn't be praying for him and supporting him and helping him. And that's so true, is that while we may organize the finances to go do a thing, the spiritual things are not affected on the field because we have enough money to be there. They're affected because we have people praying with us to advance the kingdom there. And that's so important that we see the distinction there. So developing those prayer lists is absolutely important there as well. Now, let's talk about the advancement team. One of the issues missionaries face, and they express to us, is that when part of the great disconnect of going to the mission field is that people are willing to rally around you when you're going and are excited about you getting to go. But once you get there, it's like out of sight, out of mind. People forget about you. They forget about what you're going through. Nobody's keeping them informed. And those e-letters we send out, or those paper letters we send out, become more and more difficult for people to remember to read. There's so many aspects to this where we need a team of people here in the States, not all in one location either, but wherever we have large pockets of relationships that are keeping us in mind, that are bringing what we're going through back into the hearts and minds of the people that are supporting us, that know us, that are financially supporting, or that are part of supporting churches that will pray. Consider the impact that could happen if advancement teams were scattered across the United States and were each responsible for raising $5,000 a year. And if they put together fundraising events to help fund your ministry, if they put your prayer letters up on the church bulletin board and made sure that some of those were being communicated in church bulletins, if they were rallying together to make sure that travel arrangements were taken care of, that luggage was getting to you, that certain things that perhaps needed to be done, like you write the prayer letter or you write the newsletter and then you email that to us, we'll do all the envelope stuffing, the paper folding, envelope stuffing, and the putting the stamps on there and the addressing those. We'll handle the printing. We'll do all that. We'll have a party here in the States and we'll get all that done for you. Why? Because imagine the difficulty of trying to get that done from a foreign country. So you have to think through very succinctly, very clearly, and write out very specific objectives for an advancement team to accomplish. And you have to train. You have to come alongside. And this is why we want people to develop the APACCS team before they go to the field. So they have that time to really talk through and walk through all the ins and outs and the hypotheticals of what they're going to need once they're not here. What's it going to look like when we're gone and we're serving? How are you going to be able to keep this thing moving forward? If you don't get real clear about that in the early stages, it's really difficult to rally people together around that from the field. It's not to say it can't be done, but it takes a lot of extra work. And missionaries know one of the things that they're lacking in the mission field is extra time. So being able to really form that together before you go is super, super helpful. So again, I want to emphasize on this point how important it is that you have clear objectives, that you really think through all the things that missionaries need to have done for them once they get to the field, and get the advancement team working on those things before you even get on a plane. And make sure that they're willing and that they promote awareness, all the things that are there on that slide there and more. So be creative with this. This is important. Make sure that team is able to really have a sense of freedom to be creative, but also make sure that they're trained in what they can and can't say, what's okay and not okay, and how they represent what you're doing in the ministry that you're involved in, including what pictures they can use of certain people on the field, children, etc. All those conversations need to happen before you go. Now let's talk about the next team, which is our CareCrisis team. And this is similar to advancement, but we're going to take things a step further, because this is where this team is not so much trying to make sure people back home know and are aware of what's going on and are helping you get those things done in the eyes of the public, including support raising things. These are more focused on you and what you need in the field. These are the folks that are thinking more in terms of whether or not a care package gets sent and certain things that you can't get in that country. And my goodness, the number of trips that I've taken where I've had different items packed in my bags for that family because they just couldn't get them there. You'd be amazed. Ketchup and mayonnaise and peanut butter and Nutella and all kinds of things, as well as those other special candy things. Just pick-me-ups, things that just put a smile on a child's face in the family and let them know that people care. But also to the extent where, as we're caring for them and we're aware of what they're going through and really want to just bless them, we're aware of what can happen to them in that foreign country, and we are a layer of protection. Whether that's a care and crisis person who says, this is my credit card, and if you find that you don't have enough to get on a plane, then you use that card and we'll work it out later. Who do you have in your life that could do that? Another thing to consider about the Care and Crisis team is these may be folks that maybe don't have the financial resources to support you on a monthly basis, but they will go to bat for you. One of the questions I like to ask is, who do you know that if you were in a crisis and didn't tell them would be mad at you? That's one way to think in terms of who those people need to be. Now, you've probably figured out by now that some of these may be on multiple teams. It makes a whole lot of sense for somebody who's really concerned about you guys and caring and crisis team people being on an advancement team also. That makes sense. And if they're going to do those things, they better be praying for you, right? So they should be on the prayer team also, but not necessarily giving in the support team and not necessarily on the accountability team. So you can see how some of that will overlap and some of that will be distinct and separate. So consider those aspects of what may happen on a field and who's going to be there for you. Again, missionaries said there's no way that one mission organization can do everything for us with what we're facing on the field. Those small special things as well as really what we need in the moment of crisis. We've got to have some things thought through in advance. So while a mission organization can have a contingency plan, can have a safety plan, can do duty of care, and we are as an organization seeking to do those things, we know that you don't have time in the moment to pick up the phone and ask for certain permissions, or to ask for a process, or to get an organization's financial things lined up to be able to make a decision when you're facing a crisis, whether that's a natural disaster or a political crisis on a mission field and need to get your family out of there. So having some of those things in place ahead of time is super important. Now that can also be, a family emergency has happened where someone has passed away and you've got to get home quickly. And while we have things set up for you in a reserve fund as an organization that you work toward and are able to set that money aside for such things, we also know you sometimes just have to have things arranged back home and to make arrangements for your family and to care for them and to make sure we're okay in such moments. So consider what that looks like and give people the specific role and task, and open up to them in order for them to actually do that work in your life. Now, in our ministry, personally, we've had to use our crisis team 4 times over the last, 9 years. And in that time frame, it's been some simple things where people have just gone to bat for us, and it's been some things that were pretty tough. You don't want to abuse this team. This is not an everyday team. This is not a team who's going to do things all the time for you. But some of those care folks have made sure that they were really encouraging us along the way, and we see things from them maybe 4 or 5 times a year, and it's always such a great encouragement. Now, of course, last but not least, we want to talk about the support team. It's important to recognize the process we've gone through, beginning with you and your walk with the Lord Jesus, in that accountability and just making sure that we're keeping things on track the way that we should, and that we're moving all the way to the finances. And there is some reasoning behind this. We didn't call it SAPAC, S-A-P-A-C, starting off with the money. We started off with accountability, and that's really based on Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. We really want the mentality to be that if my walk with the Lord is right, and we are a people who are really praying and inviting people to pray, and prayer is the work, all these things really will add up and line up, and that by the time we're inviting people to do all those things, it's amazing how many people will actually ask us, how much do you need? It's amazing how many times people will actually come to us and want to say, I want to get behind this work financially too. We feel led to give as we've prayed for you, or as we've considered this team you're on. We want to know the other details, like how much money is it going to take you to do these things, and so on and so forth. So a support team, of course, these are folks that you can also be creative with, in the sense that people can give monthly, they can give bi-monthly, they can give quarterly, they can give annually. These can be regular givers, these can be one-time givers, and there's so many ways to go about that. And while this particular video is not specifically about how to raise those funds, it's important to note that this is part of the process of raising those funds. And having a team of people that are doing that and engaged in that way is really necessary for us to do the work, to get to go to the work. And so it will take work on our part to actually go out there and have these conversations where we cast the vision for what God has called us to do. We articulate it clearly. We invite people to respond in prayer about all the areas in which they can be involved with us, and to see if the Lord would tell them whether or not there's an amount that they would commit to in order to invest in kingdom work through us and with us. And that's how we operate in this. We recommend the book, The God Ask, but we do take things a bit further than that, in that we really want people to understand what the Father is doing in our lives and our ministries. We want to connect in that way. We want to build these relationships with people where we recognize what they need prayer for as well. And of course, the rest of the APACCS aspect of things that we've added to that because of what missionaries have said to us along the way. So I know this video is long, but it is a training overview, and I hope that what you'll do is you'll take the time to really begin looking through the people that you're aware of in your life, people you've had relationship with, and begin to think tank and brainstorm and begin to consider prayerfully who it is in your life that should be on these teams, and that you would go in that order, inviting people to do these things, because you want people praying for you as you're seeking for support. You want people engaged with you and caring for you as you're preparing for the field. Money is not everything, and the love of money is the root of all evil. So we want to be really careful about our attachment to the idea of if I get the money together, then everything else will fall into place. Instead, we want to get everything else in order from a spiritual kingdom perspective and know that God is our provider, not these people. And there are greater things for these people to be committed to in your life than just whether or not they can give to you financially. But God will provide financially. As Hudson Taylor's famous for saying, God's will done in God's way never lacks for God's provision. And we stand behind that. We agree with that, and we've seen that in our own lives. Again, a reminder to you as we go through this process that the team of people working together with you, that these are people that are a part of support raising processes as well. Regional leaders, myself included, we raise support in order to serve those who are called to serve Him. And we don't make any money off of missionaries. So you can know that the team of people working with you are doing this with you. That we are serving you, but we're also serving alongside you, and that we're going through this process. And we're learning as we go too. And so there's always more to learn, and we take a humble posture of learning through the process as we train and as we help and as we serve. And APACCS is really a result of that process. So again, I hope this overview is a help to you. And I hope that if you have any questions about this process and really want to dive in deeper or want to ask questions about your personal experience and what you're going through right now in your support raising journey, that you'll reach out to us and let us know how that we can come alongside you a bit and have a conversation about maybe where you're stuck or where you're trying to focus or where you feel like communicating that vision is a struggle, because there's a lot that goes into this whole process, and we get that. So reach out to us at info@GoSendMe.us, and of course you can check us out on the web and contact us through that website at GoSendMeGlobal.org. God bless you. Thank you.